I want to start out by telling you, I've been reading stories from your website and a few other sites online for quite a few months now. I've noticed many stories of peaceful encounters and complete opposite encounters with attacks and threats in them. Honestly, my personal thoughts about the whole thing is if they're so much like us, why wouldn't they have their good ones or their bad ones? Not to mention their stupid ones. My father in law's family had a very bad experience with a group of bad Bigfoots back in the early 50s in Oklahoma. My personal experience, well, my little girl's personal experience, was much different. I read many encounters online of kids losing their way in the woods and being helped out by Bigfoot to find their way back home or being protected by them in one way or another. My little girl Emma happens to be one of them. 16 years ago, my family and I were living in a beautiful plot of land near the California and Oregon border, near Crescent City, California. I was a stay at home dad, and my wife was working at a little country store as a checker 4 days a week up near town. I had a metal shop on our property that I would tinker around in during the day and maybe sometimes make a little extra cash on the side fabricating something for a customer or two. Mainly, most of my cash came from making specialty jewelry to take to many different shows across the country, if not mostly California. My wife would often make different beautiful crafts to take right along with us to sell with the jewelry, custom cone art being one of them. My little girl and her would often take little trips into the surrounding woods around our property looking for and collecting pine cones for her arts and crafts. Mostly, they'd come across other beautiful forest goodies. My little girl loved these little outings with her mom, and honestly, I gotta say to this day she still does. If I remember my part of the story correctly, it was a Wednesday, late morning around 10ish, midsummer. My wife was at work and Emma came up to ask me if she can go collect some pine cones for her mother, just to surprise her when she got home. I said, "Sure, honey, but stay close to the shop so I can keep an eye on you, please." After that, she went off skipping and hopping and went and grabbed a bag and her little wheelbarrow her grandfather had gotten for her just to help us out in the garden, that she also loved to do. I went ahead and kept working and got a little too focused on what I was doing, and in turn, losing focus on Emma. She began on a certain part of the property she and her mother liked to go from time to time. The way she tells it is she started collecting such beautiful pine cones, one after another, that she realized, after a while, that she didn't look up once. After a good amount of time has passed, she realized she had lost her way. Emma is aware of all kinds of wildlife out and around in the woods in these parts, and she should keep it close by mainly because of the bear population in the area being so high, not to mention the mountain lions. I've always told her to stay close to the property or keep the dog with her at all times, which she failed to do either that morning. She had begun to yell out my name, "Daddy, Daddy," a few times. She got no response. At this point, she became a little frightened, realizing she was out there all alone and she had no clue how to get back home. Plus, at the time, I was grinding away in my shop. I wouldn't have heard her if anything, especially while I was doing that. I couldn't hear anything until I was done. I don't think I would have heard her anyway since she was a good mile and a half back in the woods. Naturally, she was scared. She began to tear up, and as she sat down on the ground, hoping I would eventually come looking for her and bring her back home. Just as she sat down, she heard a clear and a very crisp whistle right behind her. She turned around thinking it might be me whistling for her. But what she saw when she turned around was something completely unexpected. About 30 feet away, she saw a rather large head peeking out from behind a tree. At first, she thought it was just another person from the height of it. This creature then reached out its arm to show her a pine cone before gently placing it onto the ground for her. This is when Emma realized this was no person. The very moment it placed the pine cone down, it gently stood up and slowly stepped out from the tree it was standing behind. Slowly, as if not wanting to scare her. Then it turned around and walked about 30 feet, then stopped. The creature then looked back to see if Emma was following it, then pointed. The creature was pointing in the direction she needed to go. Emma was coming, but of course, knowing Emma, she had to collect the pine cone the creature left for her on the way out following it. Again, this creature walked another 30 feet, then pointed, then another 30 feet, and pointed, and on and on. This continued on for a good 50 minutes or so. Finally, the last 30 feet it stopped, pointed, then turned its back to Emma, and swiftly walked back into the forest hillside as quickly as it could, and then out of sight. Once Emma reached that point, she saw her wheelbarrow and threw her cones in. She then ran back as fast as her little legs could take her. Once Emma reached my shop, she was filled with joy and excitement, telling me very quickly while out of breath how she had gotten lost in the woods and how Smokey the bear had helped her find her way home. She was talking way too fast for me to understand. I was like, whoa, whoa, sweetie, slow down. Now what happened? She said Smokey the bear helped her find her way home. Well, now thinking back, that explains why she wasn't afraid of the creature. Back then, the only thing I heard was bear. So at that time, I tore out of my shop, grabbed my shotgun, and scanned the whole area. I didn't see anything. So at that time, I just grabbed my little girl, took her inside, and made a bowl some lunch. While she continued on and on telling me about how Smokey the bear helped her find her way home and how excited she was about it. Of course, while listening, I'm thinking, she has such a wild imagination, but loving hearing every minute of it. About a month or so later, Emma and her mother were headed out for another favorite pinecone picking spot of theirs. I was watching them head out while I was outside of my shop smoking a cigarette. Watching Emma skipping, hopping, and giggling all the way, holding her mom's hand, just filled me with excitement. That has always brought a huge smile to my face every time I saw that. While turning my head into the shop, there was no way I could have missed noticing, close to the tree line of our property, right out in the open, was a very large but white Sasquatch squatting down in the dry grass, staring right at my wife and Emma, heading out onto their little adventure. I'd say it was about 100, maybe 150 feet away from me, but it was watching them right along with me. It stood up about 10 seconds later, and that's when I noticed it was female. I think she must have had enjoyed watching them almost as much as I did back then. I remember thinking to myself, well, well, so you're Smokey the Bear. Well, very, very nice meeting you, Smokey. And my deepest thank you to you for guiding my little Emma back home to me that day. From that day on, every time we would talk about her and her encounter, we referred to her as Smokey. Wherever you happen to be, wherever you went, wherever you are, I hope you're at peace. And again, thank you from the bottom of my heart for watching over my little girl all those years ago. Thank you, Smokey. That's our story. Kevin. Now, if that's not an example of gardening in the woods, I do not know what it is. Seriously, Kevin, that was a beautiful story. I really appreciate it. For all you listening, though, on a side note, the story Kevin didn't put in here, he also told me that they saw Smokey for another 2 years after that. Always catch Smokey walking away from the land into the woods. And they eventually one time found a pile of beautiful quartz rocks right next to his shop, which is kind of interesting to me. And his wife kind of figured it was Smokey saying goodbye, but it was a nice little pile because she didn't put it there, he didn't, and Emma definitely didn't put it there. But they thought that was interesting as well. So he said I can go ahead and include those. And wow, Kevin, that's a beautiful story either way. Thank you. And for you listening, again, I want to go ahead and offer you to subscribe to gardeningofthewoods.com. We have a beautiful mug I give away monthly. Maybe you can be my winner. And also, I got a new clothing line out. There's clothes, there's shirts, there's sweaters. Beautiful. So please check it out, and you could be my next month's winner as well. And you could win one anyways. With that being said, everyone, you have a beautiful evening, and I will talk to you next time.